welcome back to my channel. We are another week down. 2023 is flying by and I am making progress. This week I actually accomplished quite a bit, given that I'm still in a bit of a holding pattern because everything that I ordered is significantly delayed in getting here. And I'm sure that's because of Black Friday and the holidays coming up, but it is so frustrating to pay for 2-day delivery and not get 2-day delivery. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm still waiting on my fabric from Joann's to finish the other glove. My store didn't have it, which I think I mentioned in my last video. And online I was able to get it, and interestingly enough I was able to order a single yard, which I am pretty certain there was a 2-yard limit forever on Joann's online. But yeah, it let me order a single yard. And I got an email earlier this week that it's been delayed. So it hasn't even shipped yet. And then same thing with Fabric Wholesale Direct. I ordered some crystal organza, which is what I'm going to make the overskirt out of. And it too was delayed, though I believe it finally shipped this week. So hopefully it'll be here today. That'd be nice. Today or tomorrow. So that's for the overskirt. Once I get that fabric, I'm going to cut out a full circle skirt and then I'm going to slice it right up the middle once and then gather up that waistband to bring it in a little bit, and that should give me the look I'm going for. I should mention I'm going to adjust the waist of the circle skirt so that's wider and gives me enough space to gather it up. That'll give it a little bit more volume and look a bit more like the artwork. I did run into a bit of a snag with the design. That probably should have been attached to the corset and attached so that it flips up like that. But I'm not touching the detail on the bottom of my corset. It is what it is. So I'm going to probably attach it to the waistband of my tatter skirt and then just let it flow from under the corset. I think it'll be fine. So once I have that done, there will be lots of blinging of the bottom of the skirt. I'm going to throw all of the crystals I have at the bottom of the skirt because the artwork says to bling it, and I will bling it. But I think I'm going to do silver instead of gold because the silver is essentially like the clear gems, and I don't want them to stand out anywhere near as much as like the gold detail on the rest of the cosplay. I just want it to be there for some sparkle. But I did get the base of my sleeves done. I finished the sleeves and they're hilarious. I love them so much. They are a poopy princess delight, but I feel so like so I explained in my last video how I made the slashed sort of look, and then after I did that I cut out that bishop slip I was talking about. I just measured my the top of my arm and I measured where I wanted it to be, and I drew out a diagonal line and curved it up a little bit. That curve up gives it a little bit more volume around the wrist. Stitched it together, added more elastic, and boom, we had our sleeve. I honestly thought I was done at that point, but there's beading that needs to happen around the top, and then there's more leaves that need to go around the bottom of that poof, and more gems. So I went ahead and took bias tape and hand stitched it along the top of one sleeve this week because I totally didn't feel like doing any more hand stitching, so the other one is unfinished right now. And then I did the beading at the top, and I'm currently in the process of finishing up some more 3D printed leaves, which I made smaller than the ones that are on the corset. Those are in the process of being primed, and once that's finished I will paint them and stitch those on with more gems. Okay, so that's the sleeves and the skirt. So the corset, we're still not done with the corset. I still have that brooch thing to work on, which I have been. I 3D printed some more feathers, and I did some paint tests on the feathers with spray paint. That Rapid Fill and Fine Finish is dark gray. I vaguely remember them selling it in white, but it's a very small company and they only have the dark gray now. But I put that on there and I experimented with some spray paint so that I wouldn't have brush strokes in the paint, and I think it turned out quite nice. So I can go ahead and finish up the other feathers and finally move forward with this brooch. I am also remaking for the third time the resin brooches. The first ones, I messed up the second pour of the resin, so it didn't cure all the way. So I wound up throwing those away. I kind of wish I hadn't. I made a second batch, and I don't like the way that the stickers looked, so I'm making a third one. I'm not throwing away the second batch because I can probably like gold leaf over the front to hide some of the imperfections with what you can see with the bubbling of the sticker. And hopefully I'll be happy with the way those turn out. I should be able to assemble the feathers and the flowers on the brooch part here shortly, and then hopefully I'll be able to add the brooches this week. So we might get this front part done this week, and if so, I'm finally going to move on to the part that I have been procrastinating on this whole time, which is this feather color, because I'm going to be making a ton of these little feathers, and they're going to go all the way around the top, and I want them to be made out of foam because I want them to remain flexible for travel purposes. So it's going to snap onto the top of the corset here, and then it needs to flex over my shoulders and in the back. I do think I'm going to make some Warbler reinforcements just right here, and maybe one in the very back, just like a little strip of Warbler that's not very long that holds it into my shoulder shape here. But the rest of it will remain flexible, so I can roll it up and put it in a suitcase. So I've been dreading that just because I'm very nervous working with foam. It's not something I'm familiar with, but we do have one successful feather, so I should be able to pull that off. So I'll probably start cutting out the feathers this week just to get that moving, because it does take a while to cut the feathers out with my laser. Hopefully this week we'll have the brooch done. We'll be able to move forward with the collar. I'm really looking forward to finishing that overskirt. And then once I have the collar done, there's like a cape thing I have to make. There's like an under cape and then like an over cape, which allows the wings to poke through. I'm going to make that out of chiffon. Originally I was going to make it out of crystal organza, but I am just not a fan of working with crystal organza, first of all, but also it doesn't have enough weight. And I know that chiffon isn't much heavier, but it does have a bit of a better drape than the crystal organza. So that's going to be the cape. Speaking of wings, I have been working all week figuring out how to make these wings. I have been following a fancy fairy wings and things tutorial, which involves cutting your veins out of poster board, which is quite interesting. So I traced the design into Illustrator, resized it, and cut it out of poster board on my Cricut. And then you're supposed to take a layer of iron on vinyl in clear, put that on the bottom, put the paper veins on top of that, take your wire frame, put that on there as well, and then cover it up with cellophane, and then heat it up with a Cricut iron press thing, or use a heat gun, or both actually. And I have been experimenting with that and failing. Originally I tried the 44-cent Walmart poster board, and I used the, I think it was 16 gauge craft wire that was recommended by Fancy Fairy Wings, and put a video up. It was a sad, sad wing. There was no structure. So I went and found a thicker wire from Lowe's. It is way stiffer, way harder to work with, but it has the strength it needs to support itself, and that's what's important. And I found a $3 poster board at Michael's, which has more structure to it as well. And I played around with it again, ran out of cellophane, and then I also ran out of heat transfer vinyl, and still I don't have a final result that I'm happy with. I did put together one of the lower wings with the new poster board and heat transfer vinyl and everything, and the problem I'm running into is when you do it her way, the cellophane, at least the cellophane I was using, so the heat transfer vinyl adheres to one side of the poster board, but then the other side of the poster board is just cellophane, right? So the cellophane's sticking to where the vinyl is poking through, but it's not sticking to the veins. And so then you wind up with this wrinkling on the veins, and you wind up with like a pocket of air around that wire, which the wire is thicker than what she said to use, but what she said to use wasn't strong enough to hold itself up. So I ordered some new cellophane off of Amazon, and it got here yesterday, and I honestly think that maybe I was using the wrong cellophane. The original cellophane I used was from Michael's, and it was very, very thin, but this stuff, it's thin, but it's actually thicker than the cellophane I was using, and it turns out it's double layered. It's folded in half, which I didn't know, but when I was laying this out, it was easier to lay out without any wrinkles because it's thicker. And that was the other thing, was laying down the other cellophane was so difficult to get it smooth. So in my last trial, I was able to lay this out and it went down so well. And then I was trimming it up and realized it was doubled, so I was able to peel off a layer. But it didn't matter that I peeled off a layer because the bottom layer was smooth across the cellophane. So that solves the wrinkling and bubbling issue, at least laying it down. And I was going to test it with more heat transfer vinyl on top. So essentially I doubled it up. I took the heat transfer vinyl and then cellophane, then veins and wire, and I'm doing another layer of heat transfer vinyl. That way there's vinyl on both sides of the paper, and hopefully I can keep that cellophane smooth. But I went to finish that up yesterday, and I guess I used up my last bit of heat transfer vinyl because I can't find the roll. And so it's just laying back here waiting for me to go to Michael's, which I will do after this. So lots of progress on the wings. Oh, and I forgot to mention on the other part of the wing, the one that I finished technically, I did try to gold leaf it to see if I could hide some of the imperfections, which it did work, but I was really sloppy with my gold leafing, so I was just testing it because I knew for a fact that I was not going to use that wing. But I do think I am going to carry some gold leafing over into my final wings. I like the idea of maybe it starting in the middle at the back and then spreading out just a little, and then maybe edging a little bit on the top where the wire is. I really like that idea. Oh, and then I also cut out some heat transfer vinyl and gold foil because I think I'm going to have it so that the back of the wings are a gold foil vein and then the front are white. So that will be an if because I'm going to have to line it up perfectly. So once I get everything melted together, I'm going to attempt to then stick foil on the outside of the wings. So hopefully that'll work out, but I think I'm on the right track, and I think the only reason I was failing was I didn't have the right materials, which to be honest, her tutorial is great, but I feel like it's not quite as informative or detailed as I need, which I do find that in a lot of like cosplay tutorials and stuff. Even my cosplay book from Nikita Cosplay I really love. Some of the instructions are lacking, so I spent a lot of time experimenting to figure out exactly what it is that she tried to do. But the guidance in general is still really good. So I'll definitely link that tutorial down in the bottom. But yeah, I think that's everything. I feel like I have just gone on like a 15-minute run-on sentence, like a 15-minute rant. I've been talking a lot. It just feels like a lot. So that's my update for the week. So yeah, that's all I have for you. So make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoy these updates. Hit the subscribe button if you feel like it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.